Today we are going to talk about how we divide fractions. Our learning target is that we are going to be able to divide fractions and mixed numbers fluently. And when multiplying and dividing fractions, you do not need a common denominator. Here are your steps. I would push pause and write these steps down on your spiral and then press play when you are ready. Number 1, it says 1 3/5 divided by 2/5. We do have a mixed number here, so our first step is going to turn our mixed number into an improper fraction. So we take 1 3/5 and we multiply and add, and it stays over 5. So 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8, and it stays over 5. Now your next step is going to be to find the reciprocal of the second one, because what we do here is we keep, change, and flip. So reciprocal of the second fraction is where we're flipping. So 2/5, our denominator becomes our numerator, and our numerator becomes our denominator. So now we're ready to rewrite the problem. So we keep 8 over 5, and we change our division problem to a multiplication problem. And then we found the reciprocal, so we write that new fraction down. So something to note about fractions when we check for reasonableness is that we started with a number right here that is less than 1. And we're working with a number here, 5 over 2, that is greater than 1. So we check for reasonableness. This should give us a bigger answer than what we're working with originally. So what that means is 8 times 5 is 40. 5 times 2 is 10. Our next step is to divide your improper fractions, but I'm hoping that we can recognize that 40 over 10 is divisible by 10, which means that we just drop these zeros and we get a 4 for our final answer. So 4 is greater than these two fractions that we have in the beginning. So that's how we check for our reasonableness. And what we just said, you can write down here as a key point, or write down any questions that you may have. Here we don't have a mixed number, so we're just working on the process of keep, change, and flip. And so before I rewrite my problem, I'm going to change my 4 over 15. I'm going to find the reciprocal, which is the flipping part. 15 becomes the numerator, and 4 becomes the denominator. Now I am ready to rewrite my problem. So I keep 9 over 10. I change my division to multiplication, and I write my reciprocal. Once I do that, I am ready to multiply straight across. If we don't know what 15 times 9 is, we just come over here to the side and we multiply it out. And we should have gotten 135 over 40. Your next step says to divide. So we divide 135 by 40. If we don't know how many times that is, we can go over here to the side. I know that 4 times 3 is 12. So it's probably going to be my best bet. 4 times 3 is 12, which gives me 120. 40 goes into 135 3 times, minus 120. That gives me a 5 and a 1. So then this is my numerator. This is my denominator. And this is my whole number. So 3 and 15 over 40. When we have numbers that end in a 0 and a 5, we should know that those numbers are divisible by 5. So I can divide by 5 and divide by 5. I'm going to bring my whole number over. 15 divided by 5 is 3, and 40 divided by 5 is 8. That is my final answer. I want you to try to keep, change, flip here.
I have a question.
So you should push play when you are finished with this problem. Okay, so we have 3 over 4, and we changed division to multiplication, and we found the reciprocal of our second fraction, which is 8 over 1. Multiply straight across to get 24 over 4, and I did not divide because hopefully we know that 24 divided by 4 is 6. Number 4, we have 3, and remember when we have a whole number that goes over 1 to make a fraction. So we keep, change, flip. We find the reciprocal of 1/3, which equals 3 over 1. So now we're ready to set up our problem again. We have 3 over 1, change 3 over 1, which when we multiply straight across gives us 9 over 1, giving us 9. Grace used a 1/5 cup of sugar to make 10 cake pops. If the sugar was divided evenly into the mixture, how much sugar is needed in each cake pop? So here, 1/5 represents the sugar, and 10 represents the cake pops. Here it says that we are going to divide the sugar if the sugar was divided evenly. So that means that helps us set up the problem. So it says the sugar is divided, so that means I've got to take this sugar and I've got to divide it by the cake pops. So that's how we set up our problem, knowing that that is over 1. So in this case, we're dividing by a big number, and when we find the reciprocal for keep, change, flip, that's going to make it a smaller number. So 10 over 1 equals 1/10. So that helps us check for reasonableness. So I have 1/5 multiplied by 1/10. And that gives us 1 over 50. Number 6, Paul is making a gravel path in his garden, and he fills his wheelbarrow 3/5 full with 6 3/4 pounds of gravel. How much would a full wheelbarrow of gravel weigh? So it's 3/5 full, and it already weighs 6 3/4. So if we're getting a full wheelbarrow, then we know that our answer is going to be bigger than 6 because it's all the way full. It's got to be bigger. So that's how we check for reasonableness at the end of our answer to make sure that we're getting that. So setting up this problem, the weight is 6 3/4, and that is 3/5 full. So go ahead and set up this problem, keep, change, flip, and press play when you have your answer. Okay, so this is your setup after finding your improper fraction and reciprocal of your second fraction. Go ahead and finish this problem, and we will check it tomorrow in class.